we go for launch.
5.
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
Anything can happen in the next half hour.
4.
My friend, we cannot keep this a secret any longer.
This whole thing is insane.
3.
Quiet, please. I am analyzing.
Where's the kaboom?
2.
There was supposed to be an earth-shattering kaboom.
1.
Greetings, my fellow galactic travelers, and welcome back to Planet 8. This is your Mission Commander Larry speaking to you from our hidden base. Chief Engineer Bob is here by my side as always in the command center, and circling Planet 8 in our orbital spy satellite is Reconnaissance Officer Karen.
And on this episode of Planet 8, we're celebrating the podcast's 8th anniversary, Planet 8 podcast of the Fantastic. And what makes it fantastic, you guys listening and viewing, make a comment. Please put a comment on social media or on YouTube. And if you haven't joined YouTube, please do so. Like, subscribe, and comment. When did you start listening to Planet 8? What episode was it? Was it the very first episode where we talked about the Avengers Endgame? Was it Endgame?
Infinity War.
Infinity War.
I know. I thought the same thing. I had to go back and
Endgame
check.
was my own private podcast before the podcast. In my mind. Was it the Christopher Lee Dracula episode? Is it this episode? Are you new to Planet 8? Let us know. So what we're going to do is we're going to just kind of give you a little history and background.
And reminisce.
We're going to reminisce. We had a concept. We had an idea. Yours truly wanted to do a podcast. And we used to have a monster club that we'd get some folks together, and we'd have lunch or breakfast. And this started at one of the Monster Paloozas. Of course, Karen and I have been having breakfast clubs since
For a long time.
going back to the 80s. And not to embarrass Walker, but when I first met her, I was doing inventory for this company to go into the store, and you'd count, whatever, and give them what their product, how much product they had. Anyway, we were invited to come over and play Dungeons and Dragons. And Walker came out with this badass leather jacket, and I thought she was like a biker chick. She had talked about.
Did it have like a big dragon on the back of it?
Oh, man, no, it had like, the little fringy things. I was like, whoa, what a badass.
Back in the day.
Anyway, back in the day.
And you remembered you were all playing Dungeons and Dragons.
And we were playing Dungeons and Dragons. So taking the idea from our breakfast club, and sometimes we had folks join us for breakfast, and the whole thing of breakfast club was we talk about favorite ice cream. I always had fun talking to Walker because she's like, "Oh my God, you surprised me! I didn't realize, Little Princess was a movie that your top 5 movies." Little Princess, not the Shirley Temple version, but the remake, is one of my favorite movies. And we would just, talk about, what if this happened in our reality, in the real world? What if, I can't even think
what if aliens invaded?
Yeah,
what would you do in a zombie?
Right.
The typical nerdy stuff we would come up
Star
with.
Trek episode.
Why didn't they make a sequel to this movie or whatever?
If you had to serve under a captain, who would you serve under? Picard or Kirk, and why?
Yeah.
And I remember there was a discussion we had where I kind of like didn't break your heart, but it was like, I was always the glass half full guy, and what did I say? I had like no hope for humanity or something like that. It was
yeah,
bad.
I remember that.
Walker's like, no, you have to have hope. It was like a never-ending story. No, you have to believe, Sebastian. You gotta believe. Walker broke my heart. Walker's great because there's a lot of things that I thought, well, this is just the way the world is, and she's like, no, this and that and the other. The 40 Times, we would go to Barnes and Noble.
Oh my God.
Magazine dedicated to extraterrestrial life, whether it's visited our planet or
all kinds of strange phenomenon.
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff, not just alien. And she canceled her subscription, and I'm like, oh no. She's like, I don't know if there's intelligent life. No. She's since kind of come a little bit back, or she may have just said that.
I'm agnostic,
You're true. Bob, we met through Will the Thrill of Horror.
Will Thrill.
And our love of creature feature and kaiju and just genre films. And I don't know, at some point I taken the concept of the breakfast and the lunch I thought to do a podcast, and it would just be some friends getting together, talking about favorite ice cream. What if zombies really did exist? If your boss became a zombie, would you try and kill them or save them, or, just off the wall topics, but to put it into a podcast because, everyone is doing a podcast. And Walker and I were talking about it at first, and we were trying to think of a name, and it was like, well, the Sci-Fi Clubhouse kind of floated to the top. And we weren't sure.
Larry's Playhouse.
We weren't sure how to host it. What would we use to, video wasn't even a thing that we thought of back then. It was just going to be an audio recording. And I'd mentioned it to Bob. Or Bob, before the show, we were reminiscing. Bob was saying it was at one of the monster lunches that we did with our group of friends, that Bob was like, "Oh, let's do a monster podcast and questions. Well, how do we do that? What's
We don't have time.
Because the thing was, when we were having these lunches, I mean, we had Don Bishop was in there. We had Lord Bloodraw was part of it. Dennis Lancaster, Eric Yee, all these people that have like a ton of knowledge. And I thought, man, there's so much knowledge around this table that we should use it in a podcast. Yeah.
some of the lunches we'd actually bring.
Yeah, we would do
Our collection.
lunches.
We would do sensor sweeps round table.
Yeah. So, but I don't know, a lot of them didn't want to do it. Now, Lord Bloodraw has joined us from time to time on the podcast, so we're able to get him in there. But yeah, so we just kind of, that was when Larry said, well, I've been wanting to do one with Karen, and then I said, well, I'll jump in, because I always looked at this because whenever I would go on a podcast or go on the radio or go do whatever, they always want to talk Godzilla. And I thought, okay, well, here's a chance for me to go and talk about stuff other than Godzilla, because I like other things other than just Godzilla. So, I thought that would be cool just to be able to spread my wings and talk about other things. But
absolutely. What about you, Walker? What do you recall the beginnings of
what dragged you into this thing?
Well, one of the things I really remember is that before we did the podcast for many years, I was doing a blog with my friend Doug. And oh gosh, we had done that. I think we also did like 8 or 9 years of our blog, The Bronze Age Babies. And we focused a lot on comic books, but also do sometimes movies or music and other stuff. And it was a lot of fun, but it also was, at times a lot of work. And it got to a point where it just wasn't really sustainable for me anymore. And I think maybe he also had kind of reached a point where, he had done a lot with it, but it was getting kind of too much. And so we had stopped doing that. And it wasn't too long before we started, looking into doing this podcast. And so I was sort of like, gosh, do I want to commit to doing a podcast when I just stopped doing this other thing? But I knew that, Larry wanted to do it. And I think his enthusiasm really kind of carried me into it. And also just because it was the idea of like, we could all sit there and kind of talk about things that we all enjoyed, and we would have different viewpoints on it and bring, different things to the table. So I thought, well, this would be a really interesting way to do things. And I don't think I really thought too much more beyond that. I mean, oh my God, I don't think I ever thought about, well, will we do this 8 years? It was never something I thought about, so here we are 8 years later. When I think, Bob, you may have been the one that brought it up that said, well, we're going to hit 8 years, and I was just like kind of stunned because I thought, wow.
Something popped up on like Facebook memories or whatever, and I realized, holy crap, it's been 8 years.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, we started out monthly, and it was Karen's idea. Let's do it twice monthly.
Wow, was it? I don't even remember wanting to.
I remember that. So yeah. So I was like, well, okay, we'll try that.
We always did it twice a month, and I
Yeah.
thought.
No, at the beginning it was once a month.
It was once a month. Okay,
Yeah.
That's interesting. See,
Yeah,
I
thought we had
thought
always done
Bob
it.
was the one that wanted to do it twice a month, and I was excited.
That's what I thought.
Twice a month. And it was like, well, let's do it the 8th and the 22nd because it's 2 weeks apart. And Karen, not that Karen, worries, but she was kind of worried about, like she was saying, her time. And for those of you that don't know, a blog wasn't video or audio. It was this typed program, if you will,
Right.
the word for it, Walker.
It's text.
Where
basically.
you would just, and they would banter back and forth, and it was really good. It's still available, right? I mean, the URL.
Yeah, people can go out if you just Google for Bronze Age babies blog, it'll pop up.
We'll
And
throw it in the comments too on YouTube for you guys to.
but yeah, we had, I don't know, maybe a few thousand entries by the time we finished.
It was a
Yeah,
lot.
well, and Doug was a great partner. He's a great guy. He really
Very
is the
knowledgeable
one
guy.
and he really kept it going. But yeah, to go from a commitment like that and to another commitment, I was a little hesitant. But then I also knew it would be a lot of fun. That we would all bring something different to the mix. So yeah, it was kind of exciting.
It was very exciting, and I'm just a 300-pound gorilla. I do some talking, and Bob and Karen brought the meat and potatoes. They fleshed out the skeleton that was Planet 8. Bob has a background in audio, and he's done several radio shows, and he's done some DVD commentary, and so he's familiar with how things work. And Walker had done the blog Bronze Age Babies for so long, she knew how to set things up. And we got a web page, or it's the web page. It was
Yeah,
a
it was a
blog spot.
blogspot page
Yeah,
from which to
and it's
launch
still up. I mean,
stuff.
yeah, a lot of our older episodes are up there in the write-ups and
Yeah,
stuff.
it's funny because when I was working at this one company, and it's like I started working there, and like as soon as I walked into the company, there were like a bunch of guys that, it was all guys there, and we had a big warehouse and all this other stuff. But I walked in and they were having this deep conversation about how the Flash could kill Superman. And I'm like, well, yeah, I guess I'm in the right spot. But of course I turned a lot of them on to the podcast and all that. And one comment I kept getting, especially when there was one guy, I listened to the episode last night. Oh, cool. What'd you think? Karen really carried that one. Oh, okay. Thanks for the compliment.
And we love all our listeners and our friends that have been on the show, that tune in episode after episode. But through Walker's blog page, the Bronze Age Babies, we're going to thank many listeners, but Ito was one of our first followers, and I think it was because of Walker's work on the Bronze Age Babies, and he's been with us all along, and he's some good comments, especially on YouTube. So if you guys see Ito commenting on there, he's one of our OGs for Planet 8.
He is great. I think he said one time that it's Edo.
Edo, sorry,
but
I'm
know
so sorry.
I was doing the same thing, but yeah, he definitely is a big supporter of ours, and yeah, he used to be on the Bronze Age Babies blog, and so he's kind of transported over, which is great to see. Great to see somebody continue. But yeah, it's interesting to see like where some of the people are coming from, because we see some of the other folks are people that like you may have brought over from like Facebook, the two of you. I see some of those folks. I'm like, who is this person? And it's like, oh, I think it's somebody Bob knows or Larry
He's
knows.
on Bob's list.
But yeah, it's great to see all these different folks that
Absolutely.
coming over.
And real good people. Steven's one that comes to mind. And I promised him we'd have him on the show. So we need to figure out something and set that up. He's a good guy. He has really good comical memes that'll post on Facebook, and it really makes my day a lot. I'll share it with my mother and some siblings in our text group. Dr. Strange, Billy. He came on the show. Bob was sick that day. I've been on his podcast a couple times. I know Walker's been on there a few times.
Mm-hmm.
Great guy. Bill over on Instagram, and he's just I put away the Lidsville comic, but Bill, just a great guy. Don Bishop, Dawn. I love Dawn. Oh, great episode, guys, but you forgot. You know, and it's like, okay, cool. Jeff Winkle has been on the show a number of times, and I really want to bring him back because
Hmm.
he's done so much, and it's just nonchalant to him. Like, oh, Lord Bloodraw has been with us for a number of episodes, and if you
Oh,
haven't seen him
yes.
live, check it out. If you haven't seen his YouTube channel, he has so much stuff going on. It's inspirational.
Yeah,
Um,
he's really the fourth crew member.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
He's our number four.
Tom Wersch, Bob's been on Creature Features a number of occasions.
Mhm.
He and I got to go on once to plug Planet 8, and the whole Creature Feature crew. They're just such genuinely nice folks.
And Tom came on with Lord Bloodraw for our Hammer
That's
episode.
right.
Oh,
That's
he
right. And
did.
Tom brought, we didn't have video back then, but he brought this binder of autographs because I don't really collect autographs anymore because there's limited wall space. And Tom solved the dilemma. You just put it in a photo album. So there's these beautiful 8x10s he has, I don't know how many volumes. The Orwigs, Gail
Oh,
and
yeah.
Ray,
They're great.
beautiful people, just so much fun to talk to, and on camera and off, and hopefully we can bring them back for a few more episodes because they have a lot of knowledge on the old serials. There was Batman serial, Captain America serial, and their books kind of cover some of that stuff.
Well,
But
we have the new book out too on
it's
TV series.
it's coming, right? So
Location
that'll be a
change.
great. Going back though, so we all three of us decided, okay, we're going to do this podcast, and we all had an idea of what we could do to contribute, and we had it set up, and Bob, I remember I was trying to look for it, had this, like, not a pamphlet, but like a how to create a successful podcast type thing, and it was an email, and I printed it out. I had this folder of like all our stuff. We had like a calendar of episode ideas and scheduling, and so the only thing we needed was a name. And I remember us just going back and forth, and time again, someone had the name we thought was, oh, that's a cool name.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, you would go on and like say, okay, this is a cool name, and you go on Google and it's like, damn, somebody's already got that one.
Yeah.
Google another one. Damn, somebody's already got that.
And
especially generic type stuff like, sci-fi this or monster that or whatever. But
right. Well, like I said, initially Karen was like, well, what about the Sci-Fi Clubhouse? And I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. And I believe that was one of the ones that was taken. But in talking, and by the way, my wife, Jasmine, hi dear, she'll never watch this. Initially, she would watch the podcast. She actually sat in some of the recordings when we did it over in Bob's Monster Garage. And the one time she listens to the podcast, I'd called her by our dog's name, Leia, instead of Jazz, and she calls me the dog's name. Sorry, I'm sorry. So
that was the last time she listened.
Jasmine likes the infinity symbol. It's a sideways 8. And it was Jazz that was like, well, why not, try to do infinity or 8 or something like that. And then we started talking, and it's like, well, Planet 8. And nobody had taken Planet 8. And so Planet 8 it was. And we got our notes together, and if you listen to the first dozen or 20 episodes, sometimes there was more information than you were looking for. Sometimes it was, I remember we did the Star Trek thing, and I was looking at like what was a producer's name and the director and what year was it done and what, sometimes we talk about budgets for the films and then what the gross was, and we were just kind of finding our footing.
Do you think we were over prepared? I like doing research.
And you do it very well. And I don't like doing research. I like just off the, side of my hip. And there are some episodes, and I'm not going to tell you the episodes, where Karen texts me separately, "Did you even watch the movie?" I'm like, "Yeah, but you part of it, most of it."
Oh, the trailer.
Yeah, the trailer, Bob. Thanks.
Exactly. I can detect your BS pretty well after all these years.
Yeah, talking about like the early episodes.
Yeah.
There was an early episode we did on giant bug movies.
Oh, I loved that one.
And we almost scrapped it because when we recorded where I was in the Monster Garage, it was pouring rain. And I thought, well, that maybe that'll give a little ambiance, a little storm going on, rain and whatever. But when I listened to the final recording, it just sounded like static through the whole episode. And it's like, oh man. But the episode was so good. It's like, man, I don't want to lose it. And I don't want to redo. I don't think we can recapture it if we redid it.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of like tried to filter out the noise as much as possible. But if you go back, I think it's like around episode 12 or 14 or something like that.
April 23rd, 2019. As I wrote that one down.
And what episode number was it?
I don't have the episode number, but it was Big Bug Attack.
Yeah. So if you go back, if you find that and look at, and they're all on our planet8podcast.com, but if you listen to it, like I say, you'll hear like the static in the background. You have to kind of put up with that. But other than that, I thought it was one of our better episodes. But
that one was really fun. We got to talk about a lot of really great, especially 50s movies with those, irradiated giant insects. But also we got into that conversation about why the insects could not be that size.
No, the ants, the fucking ant. Sorry.
Larry,
it still bothers me. I was thinking about that the other day. Messing with my mojo, man.
Did not enjoy the explanation about, the volume and surface area and the legs would collapse.
What I was like, I think I was either a junior or a senior in high school. And Andrew Fracknoy, who's
he's in that. We wrote that down because you covered that in the episode. Yeah,
he covered it in one of the classes. I took a class at UC Berkeley that he taught, and we'd watch a movie, and then he'd talk about the scientific background of the films. And I think we watched them, and then he was talking about. He even did a demonstration where he had like this rolled piece of paper that was supposed to represent an ant leg. Then saying that, okay, they're so small and they're light and, that's fine. But when they get bigger, even if the leg swells proportionately, it's still too thin to support the frame, and all this. But so I was, of course, being me, I'm like, so that means that Godzilla would be more believable than a giant ant? Because he's already big and he's got the big thunder thighs.
That's why his legs are so thick. Yeah.
Now look, kids, look, it was episode 25. I interwebbed it. Episode 25. And like I said, just last week, I was thinking about this damn thing. If an ant can support its body, becomes giant, why can't it then support its body? The body's the same dimension, whether it's small or big. Look, I saw the Ant-Man movie. I know how this works. So, I'm going to leave it at that.
Okay. And, people go listen to the episode.
And comment, please. Do you understand where I'm coming from? That,
this is why it was such a good episode.
No. And I honest to God, still think about ant legs.
Well, see, I think the best episodes are when we don't all agree on something. And then we have to sit there and say, okay, but
the beauty to me, and I think some of our best episodes, there are some topics where we don't all agree. We don't all like the same thing. And, we're like, well, we don't want to poo-poo on, what Larry wants to talk about. And I want to talk about Batman versus Superman, or, Bob, or, because we all come up with an idea. And there have been a number of episodes where one of us, or, two of us were like, "Oh, I don't know." And then we do it. And it's like, whoa, that was a fun
Yeah.
episode.
Yeah. Yeah, because you'll say, hey, I don't like this. I think this thing sucks.
Right.
And then whoever liked it will come back and explain why they thought it was a good film or a good TV show or a good idea. And then, it's
Or
not
like it's
like we have an argument like, oh no, you suck.
Oh, no. Yeah, we don't. We're just like,
It's
we
more
don't.
of a discussion, and
what we say a lot
it's
is
a running gag like Batman versus Superman.
right. Or it'll be like, okay, well, Walker, you're going to carry this episode then, because I don't know nothing about, or Bob.
Well, sometimes also it's like pleasant surprises, right? Because sometimes, because we all try to, let people choose topics. And like you said, sometimes, somebody chooses a topic and you're kind of like, I don't know, I don't really care about that, but, I'll go through it. And there's been several times where I'm kind of like, I don't know if I really have much to contribute or whatever. And then I'll be surprised, right? So like I remember one time, Bob, you had come up with The Fly, and I was kind of like, I don't know. I remember the original movie. I kind of remember the Jeff, Gold, and I don't remember the second Fly movie and what. But then when I sat down and I started watching those movies, I genuinely enjoyed them. And then when we all got together, we had a really good conversation about them. So it was like, okay. So I always try to keep it, and I know I'm not the most open-minded person. I have very strong opinions about these things, but
No.
I know it's hard to believe. But I do try, like when something comes up and my first reaction is sort of like, then I try to tell myself, well, remember, there was this show or that show or whatever, so try to go into it open-minded. The only things, and you guys know this, the only things I really don't like is like really gory stuff. I don't want to, that's not my thing. And thankfully, we haven't done a lot of gory stuff, but yeah, it's great when you can go into something and then you kind of have that fresh eyes on it and like, oh yeah, this is actually really cool, or oh, I never really watched this and paid attention to it before or whatever.
Yeah. See, I enjoyed doing The Fly because the original movie with Vincent Price and David Hedison, that's the very first sci-fi monster movie I ever saw. So that's the movie that started me down this whole path of creature features and Saturday matinee movies, monster movie matinees and things. And yeah, it's all took off from there. So and The Fly was human sized, but he only had a fly head and a fly hand, right? So he had human legs that could support him.
And the fly had a human head and was able to fly just fine until he got stuck in the web.
Help me.
One of the
I saw
creepiest things.
David Hedison at a WonderCon once.
Oh.
And he had a book. Maybe I should share it on a censorship at some point on the making of The Fly, his experience making The Fly. And so I had him sign it for me. And of course, he signed it. Help me, David Hedison.
That's cute. But yeah, those episodes will be surprising. Sometimes you look at things with a new set of eyes. There are some subjects, like Kieran said, we're just not going to cover. Kieran's not a fan of gore, so you're never going to see The Walking Dead. We won't do Walking Dead on Planet 8. I had this little side podcast I did for a while, Larry Land, and I talked to Bob about maybe doing some zombie stuff over there, not to, not include Walker, but and God bless Bob. There are times where one of us or two of us are sick, or our schedules are messed up, and we'll be like, well, you two go on, without us. And Bob's always like, no, it's the three of us. And even, when Tom Wersch and Lord Bloodrod did the Creatures Con, we did that for a couple of years. And there were pictures. I'm going to give Bob a video. I put some of our pictures together and put it to our Planet 8 theme music. And it's Karen at the convention with us on an iPad. And what was the name of the guy? You remember that, Bob? And so there are some people that
we did the listeners party at the Seven Stars Bar, and they had a big LED monitor, and so I made a frame for it, interocitor and that, and Karen was able to zoom in on that. So yeah,
Oh my God.
one way or another.
Yeah.
Three amigos.
I'm sad because I don't have a lot of pictures from the listener party.
I should somewhere. I'll have to look.
Well, look, we're going to be celebrating this 8th anniversary all year long. So we'll be having some guests show up, old guests, new guests, and who knows, maybe we'll revisit some of our more popular shows like The Outer Limits. One never knows what's in the works.
Outer Limits is sort of the Planet 8 gift that keeps on giving.
Right.
Because it's got I think it's up to 24,000 views now. And Christopher Lee's Dracula just caught up to it. So that those two episodes are tied right now.
This is the algorithms on YouTube. And yet we're still struggling to get those 1,000 subscribers. Kids, we can do live podcasts. We can have a store. Not that we'd monetize. I hate, the commercials that they throw on the videos, but we could have T-shirts for sale and mugs and lunch.
Well, we kind of have all that through TeePublic, and people can go and get stuff, but we don't really make a lot of money off it. It's just I put all that stuff up there thinking, wouldn't it be cool to go to a convention and walk the dealer's floor and see somebody in a Planet 8 shirt or cap or
Somebody
whatever,
wasn't a relative.
One of our.
Yeah. It's funny
so people go to TeePublic and make our dream come true.
Or go to YouTube and subscribe, like and subscribe.
Oh my God.
Walker?
It's like the Jerry Lewis telethon. I was looking back on some of the episodes and thinking about them, and we had such a variety of episodes early on. We covered a lot of interesting things. Some of the ones I really enjoyed. Larry, I really enjoyed your Road to the Apocalypse. You had this idea that you really wanted to pursue. That was almost like a game show, sort of, where you would have Bob and I go through these different cinematic apocalypses, and you'd set up these situations. And I don't know how much people enjoyed it, but I think Bob and I enjoyed it. So that was a lot of fun.
What's that, Bob?
I said it was, that was cool.
Oh, we did 2 of them. I'd like to do a third and make it like an annual thing or whatever. But Bob coming up with the Dragon Mobile was because I don't share any of this stuff with them in advance, so it's like off the top of their head, what would they do and stuff. And Bob came up with the Dragon Mobile, thinking it was like Death Race 2000, and
that was fun.
Yeah.
And then of course we did Planet of the Apes. And it was interesting to me going back and looking how much time there was between when we did the first Planet of the Apes, which was in August of 2019, and then we didn't do Beneath until February of 2022. So we had, almost 3 years between doing them. But of course, Lord Bloodraw was with us in all of those Planet of the Apes.
Every single one, yeah.
And I still remember it was really interesting. I think we had really good discussions on all of those films, but that first one, we were talking about that one in depth. We had a pretty long show for that first Planet of the Apes, and I still remember we were talking about the Forbidden Zone, and we talked about those scarecrows, the X's up on the cliff bank, and he was saying, I forget exactly what he said about, well, maybe, did the mutants put the scarecrow? And I was like, oh, I never thought of that. It was just, we were having such a lively discussion about this film that was like, it was made in 68. So even then, when we were talking about it, it was like 50 years old, so yeah, I'm
Yeah.
just always amazed that we find new things to talk about in these movies and TV shows that, are 40, 50, 60 years old. But that's the beauty of it, right? Is that we love all these things, and we're able to find, new stuff every time we
And there's
watch
like
it.
stuff that we do with like, man, are we going to be able to fill a whole episode on this?
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
And then, I've got like YouTube up on my monitor here looking at some stuff. One of those I thought was Zardoz, but the Zardoz episode came out to an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And
But
Yeah.
we got to give kudos to Lord Bloodraw because it was almost like a college course for me. He steered us through Act One and Act Two, and I felt like I was learning something that
And
episode.
I thought I loved Zardoz, but I didn't know, my level of interest and focus on that film paled in comparison to his. So yeah, kudos again to Lord Blood-Raw.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun as well.
And then one episode that, we didn't know how many likes or clicks or whatever we would get was The Invaders.
Oh
Oh,
yeah.
The
yeah.
Invaders, it's up to 8,400 views. And yeah, I thought, yeah, we thought, okay, The Invaders. But then when I started watching the episodes, it's like, yeah, this is actually really good. And
Hmm.
Right.
just picking out, guest stars and things that have been in other stuff. And, it's like, Dawn Wells was in one, and she's in two, I think. And then Suzanne
Suzanne
Pleshette was
Plachette.
in one.
Yeah.
Yeah, Suzanne
And
Pleshette.
yeah, and a lot of Star Trek guests who were on it as well. Because
Hmm.
back in the 60s, and they were all kind of contract players, and they'd go on a bunch of different shows and things. So
Yeah.
but yeah,
That,
a lot seemed to cross over between like the Invaders and Star Trek.
that was one of the episodes that I was like, Invaders?
Yeah.
Okay. And started watching. I was like, wow, it's really good. Um, so yeah, that was a fun episode for me.
Yeah, and it's funny how it did take off because you think about it, it's got barely two seasons. I mean, I think it
Barely.
was
Yeah.
short a full second season, and you didn't see it rerun a lot. I think Sci-Fi Channel did it for a while, and it's just not one of those things you saw shown a lot. But
Hmm.
yeah, we got a really good response for that. I
Walker.
think
It's a Quinn Martin production. Come on.
Quinn Martin production.
In color.
In
But
color.
yeah, besides I like to, and besides the you know, how many views we got, I think we also got a lot of comments on all the different socials about
Mhm.
Invaders. So
Right.
it's always neat when we can kind of hit a nerve or hit the zeitgeist,
Yeah.
whatever, and it's like, oh yeah, the folks really, really like this. So it feels
Yeah.
good to pick out something that our listeners and viewers enjoy.
Mhm. And there were two episodes I think that were my favorites. And one was it was a very early video episode that we did. One of the first videos we did was on American International Pictures.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah.
And I think Lord Bloodrow was on that one as
Yeah.
well.
Hmm.
But I love American International, so just being able to talk about that for an hour was cool. The other one was, and I know Larry and Karen wanted to do a Star Wars episode. I was kind of like, Star Wars. But I said, well, okay, let's do Star Wars, the original Star Wars, but do it as if we were in 1977 and no other Star Wars existed. So we can't mention Empire Strikes Back, We can't mention Boba Fett. We can't mention Jar Jar Binks or Ewoks or any of that stuff. We can only talk about what was in that original movie. And I thought that was probably one of our best, actually.
Yeah,
Discussion we had
that
on
was a
that.
good one too.
That was a lot of fun. Um, I'm gonna be that cliche, and I love them all. I can't say that, what the audio episodes, the video episodes, um, all the thinking and the prep and the discussion, and if we talk about Twilight Zone, do we talk about it for a season, or are we just going to pick favorite episodes? If we do
Yeah.
Star Trek, is it just a season, or is it and well, if we do seasons, the third season sucked, so then just all this.
Well, like
Right. There's so much
one
that
that I
goes
had,
into it.
yeah, one that I had to do a lot of studying on because I didn't know a lot about it was we did a whole episode on Horror Express.
Mm,
Oh yeah, that was fun.
And
that's
that was another one I thought, oh, can we fill a whole episode with that? And we did somehow.
I absolutely love good friend of mine for years now, Will the Thrill. And it was fantastic having him on the show. Will likes to talk, and that's part of his gift, is the gift of gab. When he would host the Thrillville Cabaret shows at the Parkway in Oakland, and sometimes it was just like a movie. Walker and I were introduced to Dolomite, Rudy Ray Moore,
Oh my
through
God.
Will.
Yeah.
Seventh Voyage of Sinbad, Eyes Without a Face. God, one year he had what was that Santa's name that he sat on the toilet the whole episode? He brought a toilet out.
Oh, it was Elvis.
The Elvis
Uh,
Fat Santa or
no, it was like
Rude
um,
Santa?
no,
Anyway,
he was Elvis, but it was like yeah, something Elvis. Yeah, and he sat on a toilet and watched the movie.
literally the whole episode. He didn't
Yeah,
do
it was
anything, I hope.
disturbing.
But it was just fun to have Will on the show and have him, and he filled that whole episode. I don't know how long it was, but it was a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, he filled it.
Um, I really enjoyed the episode with the Orwigs too. They are so charming and have such great stories about, how they worked on and created, their books and the traveling that was involved, and, finding, these lost locations. It was a lot of fun, and it was real interesting. I really love this podcast, and
Yeah, there's one episode we could probably even do a part two to it. I just came across it scrolling through, and that's the WTF MCU.
Well,
um
let's see how things
See how the Avengers
pan
film
out
goes.
this
we
year,
we got
maybe.
Avengers, we got Spider-Man.
But I was thinking, Bob, you're saying like a lot of times we go into this thinking, are we going to have enough to fill an episode?
Mhm.
And I think most of the time we do. The only times I really feel like sometimes we don't is maybe when we're reviewing or talking about current movies, like something
Yeah.
new comes out. And sometimes I feel like we go and we see it. And even if we like it, sometimes we just don't have a lot to say about like a brand new movie for whatever reason. Sometimes it's just like, oh yeah, it was a good movie. I thought this part was good and that, and it's sort of like, okay,
So stay
uh,
tuned for the Mandalorian.
Wow.
we'll see. Yeah, we'll
Wow.
see.
Nine
Um,
times out of 10, if we cover a current film, it was Walker that was kind of like, no, guys. Before we even saw the film. And
I
so,
just want to maybe lower expectations a little bit.
or she'll
You know,
say, well, but yeah, all the other podcasts are going to talk about The Mandalorian. She
my
didn't say that this time, but
I didn't say it this time, but as somebody who does go through our Podbean and see all of our stats, I do notice that I feel like we maybe get more hits on the older stuff than the new stuff that's out in the theaters. And I think that's just has to do with, who our viewers are and who our listeners are, and that's fine, you know. And also there's just so much maybe more we can dig up on a lot of these older shows. Like I was looking at one of the episodes I thought we did a really good job on was something about The Thing. And we talked about, you know, three different Thing films, and we talked about the short story. We talked about Who Goes There. We had Bob Eggleton on, the artist, to talk about what he was doing, because he was, I think, he was illustrating a book.
He was illustrating a book, the novel of it. But
that was a
yeah,
great
we also
episode.
did Invasion of the Body Snatchers, all the
Mhm.
movies, four films.
If
Yeah.
there's an episode, and you guys will notice, one of us will say, "Well, hey, I have a question for you guys. If you were a wolf man, would you be the kind of wolf man that, you know, could change at any time or only during a full moon, or some random question?" Because at that point, we've run out of things to say about what we were going to talk
Would you
about.
be a two-legged werewolf, or would you be a four-legged werewolf?
Four-legged werewolf.
What about Popeye, our unofficial mascot?
You know, we haven't talked about Popeye in a very long time. We
Well,
used to talk about him a lot.
You know, yeah, we should watch that movie and do a podcast on it.
Watch the old Max Dave Flasher Popeyes. Those are excellent. Especially the theatrical ones, like Popeye meets Sinbad the Sailor, and Popeye and Abu Hassan and the 40 Thieves, and those are like really good. Kolchak, that was a good one. Kolchak.
Kolchak was a fun one. Fun fact, Lieutenant Jasmine does a really good Popeye impersonation, specifically his laugh. And I was sharing that with Jeff the other day, and he's like, "Well, I can't do Popeye's voice, but I can do when he whispers like, well, I'll blow me down." He did a really good.
Dennis Lancaster does an excellent Popeye. I also, you know, I enjoy our Halloween episodes. I really enjoyed the one we did on Disney Halloween.
That was an interesting collaboration when we worked with the Disney folks.
Yeah, the Disney Museum. They came on and we all talked about, because Disney had a certain style and they knew how to make these things scary or creepy, but put a lid on it just before they would, you know, give kids nightmares type of thing. Yeah. But they still had some really excellent episodes. Like Larry was talking about, was it the Scarecrow of
Romney Marsh?
Romney Marsh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's a good one.
And things like that, you know, or even like, you know, Night on Bald Mountain from Fantasia, or any of that kind of thing, or, you know,
Ichabod and the Headless Horseman,
where Mickey's in a haunted house or something, but ghost things and all that is, yeah, I mean, there's some excellent, and, you know, the Walt Disney Museum is on Walt Disney, not Disney complete. So everything they have covers from Walt Disney's birth up to when he passed away. And then they don't cover things after that.
Yeah.
So the episode we had,
so it's pure.
Concentrated on what was happening during Walt's life. So, you know, they didn't have like Nightmare Before Christmas in the Haunted Mansion and all that kind of stuff. It was, you know, pure Disney before they started buying everybody up.
What was kind of funny to me is the two guests that we had on worked for the Disney Family Museum, and we'd ask them these really like deep Disney questions about, you know, the film, and they're like, well, really don't know that much about the Scarecrow from Romney Marsh, but we can tell you about it. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, that was cool. Like I said earlier,
you know, they were prepared for certain things, and there's just so much stuff that they'd have to remember.
They were nice. I mean, they offered us free tickets to the museum, and if you haven't been to the Disney Family Museum, you should go. So,
yeah,
it's a good time out.
Next time Walker's up in the area.
Next time
I need to make that visit pretty soon, I think.
Go to Skywalker Ranch store over by the Yoda fountain. Get you a t-shirt. Like I said before, Jazz doesn't really listen or watch the podcast, but and I'm like, oh, we have a guest on the, I get all excited. Oh, Lord Bloodraw. She's like, isn't that the guy that sat next to us at the wedding? I'm like, well, yeah, but that wasn't Lord Bloodraw. That was his alter. So anyway, I'll say, well, we have Will the Thrill. Isn't that your friend from the? Well, yeah. So I'm telling her we're watching Night of the Living Dead, and I'm like, oh, they're coming to get you, Barbara. She was a guest on our podcast, and she's like, no. And I'm like, no, really. She's like, you're just pulling my leg. I'm like, and the funny thing is with Jazz is sometimes she mixes up her you're pulling my leg, whatever the term is for that.
Metaphors,
and she'll say, oh, you're pulling my finger. I'm like, okay. Well, so I'm like, look, and I played I had such street cred with her after she watched Judith O'Day. Oh, you're a real podcaster. I'm like, what does that mean? Yes, I'm a real podcaster. Fun fact, May 8th, 2026 was our 8th anniversary.
Oh,
my wedding anniversary is going to be November of 2026, and I think it's the 18th. But if it's not, dear, forgive me, will be my 8th wedding anniversary. So look at that, 8 years of podcasting and 8 years of wedded bliss.
There you go.
Yeah, what could you can
hand in hand.
More?
The magazine episode.
That was fun.
What was that? That was last year.
Yeah,
right. Yeah. That was
magazine
a really
and the books episode. Both of them.
Well, we're just patting ourselves on the back here.
I Am Legend. That was a good one.
But I think it's funny. I feel like process wise, like we were like super organized at the beginning. Like Larry said, we had like calendar, we had our schedule, we would schedule things out, we knew exactly what we were doing, and then over time it has become perhaps looser in how we do things.
Over time it became, oh shoot, we got to record an episode.
Yeah,
what are we going to talk about?
I mean, we still have some things scheduled like long term, but it's interesting to see how the process has changed over time. And part of it is just our comfort, I think, with doing the podcast now.
Well, and I think a lot of our early stuff was either movies that were out, like, Mandalorian and Grogu, or it was stuff that we were just so familiar with, be it Outer Limits or we didn't have to do a lot of heavy lifting. Now we're getting into stuff that maybe we haven't seen, spoiler alert, we're going to do an episode on The Prisoner, or we're talking about The Prisoner. We haven't seen Prisoner episodes for at least me 20 years. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, it's about that long for me.
We call that heavy lifting because we're going to have to do like a lot of watching and researching and stuff. And it's time consuming. Not that it, we don't mind doing it. We love, you wouldn't have 8 years of Planet 8 if we didn't love what we're doing, but it's a lot of dedication, and it's a lot of fun. And I don't want to get all soppy, but it is a privilege to have been friends with you guys for so long and to have been podcast mates for 8 years. There is a lost episode of Planet 8 that will never be heard or seen. In the video I'm going to give Bob to show, there's a photograph of Bob and I at Podcast Palooza at the Silicon Valley Comic Con. And Walker couldn't make it out. And unfortunately, they wouldn't let us, because there were like 8 or 9 podcasts that were going to audition at the Comic Con. And I can't even think of the name of the company, was going to pick them up, and you'd be a national podcast on their, was it Sirius Radio, or it was one of the national things. And so we were struggling to find someone to interview. And Mara, and I can't think of her husband's name.
Paul.
Huh?
Paul.
Paul. The Star Wars bar were gracious enough.
Bar. Yeah.
Yeah, to let, and so they're in the picture.
They had a booth there, and we just like grabbed them and said, "Hey, come on over."
Yeah, would you like to be part of that? And so
it's good. They recorded it, but they never gave us a recording of it.
They would not because of licensing. And so Bob gave them the intro, the outro music.
Oh,
and
wow.
yeah, it, as I think about it now, I should have had Jasmine like do a bootleg. We'd have Planet 8 bootleg, but it was like what, 15 minutes, Bob? It wasn't even a full, like,
it was pretty short, but
yeah, just to give them that flavor for the podcast. But that was a good memory. I loved doing the creature feature shows we talked about earlier. There were conventions, and we were able to interview our friends that were at the show.
The Darth Vader guy.
Yeah, and he has this like aquarium channel on YouTube. And it's pretty cool. So who would you like to have on as a guest as we're coming up towards the hour mark on this?
If we could have anyone?
Well, I mean, yeah, sure. If we could have anyone, who would it be?
If it was anybody, that's a good question. Because like somebody like Shatner would be interesting, but I don't know how much he would actually give us.
It would be hard to interview.
I'd be asking him about like Devil's Reign and Kingdom of the Spiders and stuff.
I don't know that he would give us anything on that stuff,
Well, you never know, because Keith and I were down at the Egyptian Theater when they were doing their 50th Godzilla anniversary back in 2004, back when we did ours. And George Takei was there. And he came up, and Keith and I started talking to him about the voices he did for Rodan and the H-Man and Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster. And he was like, he lit up. And he was like talking nonstop. And we had a great conversation. And he was just happy that someone wasn't asking him about Star Trek. It's like, I get to talk about something else. This is great. Yeah. So,
yeah, you never know.
You never.
So, Bob, who would you?
Well, as you know, I was talking to Caroline Monroe about coming on, but she's not very technical, and she wanted to just talk to us on the phone. And I was like, you're Caroline Monroe. It's like, people are going to want to see you. So I was going back and forth with her daughter and saying, well, can you like put mom in front of a camera, in front of a computer and zoom in? I mean, so I don't know. That may happen someday, but I kind of left it for a while, and I'll try to revisit them later. But
I would love to have John Stanley on the show.
Oh, that might actually be possible.
Yeah, I reach out to him and see if he'd be interested. John Stanley took over the Creature Feature hosting duties after Bob Wilkins retired from the show. And I thought, John is just a plethora of knowledge. He's written several books. He's interviewed many, many people on the Creature Feature show, and also for the Chronicle. He was a news guy before hosting Creature Features. I think he'd be fun to have on the show.
Mm-hmm.
Not sure if he'd be interested, though. We should ask.
Oh, I'm sure he probably would. But yeah, he's kind of like a couple other guests we've had, where you ask one question, he'll just go on the rest of the episode.
So we can just sit back and let him talk the whole episode.
Pretty much. Like Frank Dietz.
Yeah.
Frank had a lot of stuff to say when he was on. So, and he's been on a couple of times. He was also on our Bob Burns tribute episode.
Mm.
So as we wind down our 8th anniversary episode, anything else you guys would like to share? Any memories? Any hopes for future episodes? Any shout outs?
God, I think we pretty much covered everything.
All right.
Everything worth covering. But
Well,
Let's
it's
I
fun to just go back. Yeah, just go to YouTube or go to planet8podcast.com and just browse through the episodes.
Mhm.
You know, you may find one that you didn't know existed that covers something that you're interested in, or oh, this looks interesting, or whatever, and give it a listen. You don't just have to listen to brand new episodes, so you can always go back and revisit any of the ones that we've done.
just to give you guys an idea, not including our best of episodes. This episode you're watching or listening to is our 176th episode. So most of the, if not all of the non-video podcasts are still over on the Planet 8 blogspot page. Then planet8.com. It's going to take you into Podbean, and then obviously Planet 8 at YouTube will bring you to the video part of it. So
You know, I have one interesting story behind the scenes of one of the episodes. Um, we were recording "Thankful for William Shatner."
hmm,
It was one of our Thanksgiving episodes, and we were doing it all remotely, and it might have even been during the pandemic.
think it was our
Yeah.
first Thankful for.
So through the whole episode, I kept hearing like knocking in the back.
right.
Dog thinks if it was the door. I kept hearing knocking in the monster garage, like back in the corner. And I was like, what the hell is that? In fact, I think I was counting down. I usually count Larry down. I'll go like 3, 2, and then we'll have a silent one and it'll start. And I think the recording had like 3, 2, knock, knock, knock. And I saved it. But um, still to this day, I have no idea what that knocking was. I thought maybe it was Nimoy from Great Beyond, upset that we're doing a Shatner episode. But maybe someday I'll tell my ghost stories. I've got a lot of ghost stories that happened in this house. Um, but yeah, I think that was one of the ghosts back there that was playing with me when we were trying to record the Shatner episode.
I remember that. I remember there's a couple of episodes where you've told some ghost stories in and around the house.
In and around the homestead.
Yeah. Okay, kids. It is that time to do our sensor sweep. Who would like to go first? I'll go first because I usually don't.
Why don't you do
This
that?
lovely item, Giant Leap.
See, now Karen and I are going to pale in comparison now.
Giant Leap and Zicco toys have
Oh my goodness.
reissued, re-released the Eagle. The Eagle one has landed in Mobile Command, kids.
See, we need to do Space 1999 sometime.
Yeah, we
I've been
should
wanting to.
actually. There's 2 astronauts that come with this. The doors and stuff open. I'm not going to be able to do it all, but
Is it Martin Landau and Barbara Bain?
it looks nothing like them. They couldn't get the licensing. They're generic G.I. Joe astronauts.
Nick Tate.
This thing sold out immediately, so good luck finding it, kids. I
Good
got mine
Lord.
on Big Bad Toys.
What is that, like 3 feet long?
Oh yeah, borderline 4. It's a big one. I don't know where the hell I'm going to put it. Right now, it's in the launch position.
Eagle always looked cool.
The Eagle has
Just an
landed.
iconic looking ship. I mean, I'm not a huge Space 1999 fan. I've watched, I'm familiar with it. But the ships, not to plug other podcasts, but Dan Monroe, who does a great podcast actually, covers Space 1999, but also the Eagle ships. There were several of them, different sizes and stuff like that. He talks about it. It was a good episode.
Yeah, I
I
was just
wonder.
watching an episode of his on the Flying Sub from Voyage to the Bottom
Oh
of the Sea.
yeah, that was a pretty good episode. Did we pick the Eagle as one of our top 10 spaceships?
I don't
I don't
think so.
know. Maybe that's an episode people should go back and check out.
We, we
See.
might have to go back and look at that.
Yeah, definitely. There are episodes too where I'm like, hey, let's talk about Jaws. And they're like, we did. And I'm like, oh, well,
I
Where
know.
was I?
That's one of
yeah.
the problems with doing it for 8 years is you think you've come up with a great idea for an episode until everybody tells you we already did that. So
And
the number of things we can talk about seem to be like diminishing.
I'm trying to print out like a Bible of sorts, just showing or an index of episodes we've discussed. Just to have, I'm a
Yeah.
paper and pen kind of guy. I don't do well with iPads and laptops and stuff as I talk to you on YouTube. But yeah, that baby is it's a big one, and it's an investment, but it was so worth it. So beating bologna sandwiches for the next 3 months, but that's okay. Bob, what do you got for us, buddy?
Well, I retired about 6 months ago, so I haven't been buying a lot of stuff. But this my daughter got me actually for Christmas way back, and it's horror movie monsters written by Jon Landis. Now, I don't know
Oh
if
yeah.
Jon Landis actually wrote the book or if there was a ghostwriter and they slapped his name on there to sell books, but it's a nice big hardcover. And I'll bet you any page I open probably has some really nice full page. I was going to say color, but that's black and white. Full page
Yeah, I've got that one. It's a
photos.
great book.
But yeah, it's got a lot of, even if you don't want to read, you just want to look at pretty pictures. They're all in there.
Oh, the
But
American.
it's a very cool book. And it's still available too. And then guess what came out on 4K this week?
What could it be?
Now, if you watched our episode on what do we call it when we were talking about like hidden treasures or
I think it was Hidden Treasures.
hidden treasures, where we talked about movies that not a lot of people have seen that we always champion. And one of mine was Speed Racer. So yeah, Speed Racer and I always wished they had put out a 3D disc of this because this, the visuals and the color and to have that just like coming out of the screen at you would be so cool. But here, at least I got it on 4K and I can revel in the Wachowski brothers direction of Speed Racer. And people complain about it, but it's like it's supposed to be an adaptation of the TV show. So when they're acting like the characters in the TV show. And, when it was dubbed, a lot of times you had to fit more dialogue in their mouths than they were actually, the space of time they were actually talking. So a lot of times they were talking really fast. Or, Peter Fernandez, who was dubbing it, would insert an oh or whatever. And so, they act in that style, which is like perfect. And unlike Roger Rabbit, which was cartoon characters in a live action world, the Speed Racer, this is like live action characters basically in a cartoon world, whether it's the races or the backgrounds or the, companies they visit and things. So I recommend people go back and check out Speed Racer, and now you can check it out in 4K.
Very good. Walker.
Well, I don't have a physical thing to share because I'm not really collecting anything except I did get Micronauts, but I think I showed the Micronauts last time. So I'm still doing my YouTube show of Echoes from the Satellite. And it seems like I'm reading a lot of anthologies. I finished a fantasy one, which I talked about. I'm working on a science fiction one now. I just did a episode with some more Killraven comic books. So that's out there. If people are interested, they can find it on the YouTubes. It Echoes from the Satellite. And more videos to rot your brain.
And go check out GodzillaFest.com. You can now sign up for our all new monthly newsletter, which will keep you totally up to date on all things Godzilla Fest.
Cool. All right, kids. 8 years, 176 episodes.
Would you believe?
We should get together and do brunch.
There you go.
We should.
My friends, thank you very much for tuning in. Thanks for listening. Please like, subscribe, and comment, and share our YouTube channel. I do read the comments. If they're specific to Bob or Karen, I share it with them. And appreciate you guys so much. Take care, be safe, live long and prosper.
On that note, this will conclude this transmission from Planet 8. We would like to thank all of our intergalactic audience for listening. Be sure to head on over to our website at www.planet8podcast.com, where you can get more information on this episode's topic.
For more conversation, find us on Twitter at Planet8Cast.
Or on Facebook at facebook.com/Planet8Podcast.
We want to thank you guys for tuning in each and every episode. We look forward to your input and opinions. Until next time, this is Planet 8 signing off. End transmission.
By George, he's got it. It is the end.
Thankful for William Shatner.